What's up guys? In today's video, I'll be having a conversation with one of my poker athletes, Martin. Now not long ago, Martin was in a very dark place. He was struggling with crippling anxiety. He had nowhere to turn and he almost felt like throwing in the towel with poker. He felt like things were going from bad to worse and he just couldn't get himself out of negative forms of thinking. He was catastrophizing daily about the future, he was worrying about going broke, and the stress was building on an almost daily basis. Around this time, he reached out to me and said, Adam, I think I'm a bit of a lost cause right now, but I need help. I need to get myself out of this situation, and I've heard from a friend of mine that you could be of help to me. So on this note, he jumped into the Poker Athlete program, and today I want to share with you Martin's journey. He's going to be very vulnerable and share all the kind of hard times he was struggling with, and then how he was able to develop the skills to get him out of that situation. Now, he's in a situation where he feels like he can handle anything that poker or life throws at him. No matter what results he gets, he can accept them and move forwards, and he couldn't be in a better place emotionally going forward. So I'm excited to welcome Martin and for him to share his journey with you guys. All right, Martin, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Looking forward to diving into your journey as a poker athlete. But prior to that, let's get into a bit of your background for the audience. So before getting into poker, you played a lot of sports. I think you played ice hockey in particular. So can you take us back to your kind of early childhood? What was it like playing sports? And what were some of the lessons you learned through sport which were applicable to poker?
Right. So the most relevant skill I learned, or like something I developed, was competitiveness, because I always wanted to win. I hated losing, and I tried to avoid losing as much as possible, pretty much as everyone else. But it negatively influenced me in poker in a way that, because I hate losing, and losing is a big part of poker, I just can't in a poker. Well, in sports, if you lose, there's just like another time, and you don't lose money. You don't. It's not like a big of an investment. If you lose like a match, there's always another match. If you lose like a sparring session in a box, which I was doing, there's another round. But in poker, if you lose a tournament, like there is another tournament, but you just lost money, and you're never gonna get it back. So because I hate losing, and I've never learned in poker, in sports, how to lose. It really negatively influenced me in poker. But overall, like the competitiveness, the discipline you need to be good at something, or good at sports, that really like shaped me and like groomed me into being a decent poker player.
Mm.
Other than that, I think mostly like the sports, it's not relevant to poker at all, apart from the competitiveness and the discipline. So yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned like losing and being difficult to lose. So let's get specific with for you. Let's say it was a hockey match or it was a boxing match that you were having as a youngster. How would it affect you? What would be some of the specific things that would happen when you lost emotionally, or things that you'd experience?
I think I was just very hard on myself, and part of that was because my father was very invested in me as a poker player, because he always wanted to play sports, but it never got anywhere. So he kind of like, there's like a cliche that fathers try to live their dreams through their kids. So that's kind of his deal. And because he was so invested, every time I played well or I won, or things went well, like everything was great. But every time I didn't play well or I didn't perform, like he was very, very harsh on me, and that really fucked me up in a way, because I was scared of losing. I didn't really hate losing as much as I hated my father being mean to me when I lost. So I kind of connected losing with like being treated badly, and that transferred to poker as well. So now when I lose, or like not even a tournament, like a single hand, I judge myself very harshly, and I used to judge myself very harshly, and I used to critique myself pretty much the same exact way my father used to critique me, which was kind of interesting to find out during the poker athlete program, that in a way I am my own father to myself. Like I hated the way he treated me as a child when I didn't perform. Like it wasn't constructive. It was just like very negative, very critique based. And I figured out during Poker Athlete program that I am pretty much the same to myself because I just learned it from him. So that's what I thought. That's how you get better, but that's just like not very productive and not at all constructive. So that really like shaped me in a bad way. And it's really hard. It was really hard to get rid of, and I still fight with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how much we model behaviors, even as a child, when we're like maybe mistreated or we're treated unfairly, we then replicate that with ourselves or with other people around us. And it's very interesting if we don't do some work unpacking that we almost replicate the same lessons that we picked up or things that got passed down to us almost like without realizing. So yeah, it's very, very good when you can stop that kind of train and like decide how you want to act in situations, how you want to speak to yourself. So I can tell by the way you were speaking there's a lot of pressure from your father in particular on your sport. Myself, I was doing running. My dad used to be a runner. So there's this like, come on, you better do well. So I felt the pressure, but I never felt like he would treat me badly if I if I didn't like do well. Like if I had a bad race, he'd probably be quite understanding. Obviously, if you do well with a sport, your father or your parents or they give you a lot of praise. So for me, I got a lot of love and affection from doing well, but I never felt I got like overly scorned like when things didn't go well. So for you, is there any examples of like things what your dad maybe father did in terms of expressing that it's not acceptable? Because I think this is the kind of hard part where it's fine to not get the kind of validation from winning, but if losing becomes this really negative, almost like you feel like, oh, things are going to go badly because of that. So anything that's happened with your sporting background or in your childhood where any specific examples for that?
I think it was just very cold and distant. Like as a child, all I wanted, like or any child, well now that I'm father, I can see that firsthand. All any child wants is like a love and affection, which is pretty much what I wanted. But when I lost or when I didn't play well, I he was very distant, very cold. Like he never hit me or anything like that. But he was very like he let me know in a non-physical way that I fucked up and I don't deserve like attention, love, or affection. So that's just it. It was never anything else. It was a lot of critique, like what I should have done, what I did wrong. Never was. It wasn't like a never was like a shit sandwich where he would say like a good thing, and a bad thing in between. It was just like a bad, and so it was just that a lot, and that caused me to never really gain any confidence at all. Like my confidence was based on my father's appraisal. So when I was playing well, like my confidence got higher and higher and higher a little bit. But when I had like one bad match, one bad performance, it's not like my confidence would drop a single level. It would just reset to the zero. So I had to build up from zero again. So I never like gain a true confidence where I would be confident in myself or in my ability to play well. It was just always I'm running hard. Like in a poker, I was running hard. I was doing really good, and then bad performance back to zero, and build back from zero. Which like you can never be anything good in life when you always have to start from over.
Yeah.
And that's what I carried over to poker as well. Like I can play well, I can run well, which is basically what happened. We will get to that, but I was running well from the beginning of my like professional career, and then I hit first like real downswing, and my like pattern from childhood emerged again. So I went back to zero with my confidence. I started playing worse. I was scared of losing. I was scared of losing any money. I was scared of playing at even. So that's why I joined Poker Athlete, because I knew that there's something wrong with me that needs to be worked on.
Yeah, so we've got this kind of all or nothing with your emotions, generally linked to winning or losing. And you can see with obviously your father's appraisal was the big all, like, yes, I get all the validation. And then when you lose, that got retracted so that the losses feels doubly bad. It's like massive. It's almost like the rug's being shrugged, but taken from beneath you, and you're back, like I said, back to this kind of zero, feeling really empty. And I can imagine you correlating that to playing poker. It's the same kind of dynamic. It's like when you win, all the money comes flooding in. When you lose, all of a sudden the money's gone. Now your self-worth's gone. Now you don't feel good enough. Now you've got all these issues to deal with. So yeah, it's got this very this polarizing kind of emotions where it's either amazing or it's absolutely rubbish, and it's like up and down.
Yeah.
In the pursuit of poker, as we know, the roller coaster of results day to day, week to week, this is going to cause a lot of problems. So we'll definitely get deep into that and how that was affecting you. Let's say, first of all, talk about how you got into poker. What age was it? What were some of the things, your first experiences with the game, and how did you start getting into it?
I think I first saw poker. I played my friends at the party who were all getting drunk and they were playing poker. I was so fascinating. I remember the next day with like a massive hangover, I downloaded, I think, B-Win or something like that, and played my first free roll. And from that, I was like, I think 18-ish, 19-ish, something like that. And I was a recreational player for a very long time. I played like once a year, twice a year, because there was never a casino near me. And I didn't really like online poker. And I tried depositing a couple of times. I think you heard the story like 1,000 times. I've tried deposit a couple of times, like to try it. I deposited like a $50 lost, $100 lost. So I did that a couple of times as a recreational. And the first time I really tried, really applied myself, I was living in the UK at the time, in the Bristol. And I was in a casino playing live poker, which I always liked. And there was like a guy that had a shirt, like a professional, with like a tag of some room, I think Governor Poker or something like that. And he was telling his friend on his left that he's making so much money with poker and he's professional. And he was playing terribly at the tournament. And I was terrible. I was recreational. I played once a year. And even I could tell that he was doing like random, like very bad shit. And I always thought to myself, like poker was always a dream of mine, but I thought that I'm too stupid to play poker. I always thought poker players are really, really smart, and I'm just not that smart, so I'm not going to even try, because I was brought that way by my father that I'm not that smart. And that was the first time I realized that, maybe I am like smart enough. Maybe I can try it, because if he can do it, I can do it. So next day I deposited, I think, £500 and just spin it from there. That was, I think, the end of 2016. I was working at the time, full time, and I turned pro in the end of 2019, I think, before the pandemic hit. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I just got to poker like everyone else, through party and then just seeing some idiot playing and thinking I can beat idiot like him.
It's interesting, isn't it? Just one guy who was being a bit braggy, flashy, and he got you curious enough to go, wait a second, if he can do it, then I can do it. Maybe this poker thing isn't as hard as I thought. It just opens up the doorway to opportunities. So really fascinating. So for yourself, how were those first 3 years? So 2016 to 2019, that's when you're pretty much a recreational player, but thinking, wait a second, maybe I can make this work. How did those 3 years go, and how did you transition to becoming professional? What were some of the early kind of wins you had that let you know you're on the right track?
The first 3 years I was working full time as a waiter. So what I would do is go to work, come back from work at like a midnight, have a 5 hour sleep, then get up really early before my next shift, like play some tournaments, and then go to work again. So it was like very demanding on time. I didn't spend much time with my then girlfriend, now wife, at times. So she was very understanding with that. It was very hard to fit in the time to learn, because I would try to learn as much as possible, like through all some kind of sites or videos. So it was very hectic, very demanding, very time consuming. I don't think I would do it now, being 30, because being 20, what was I? Like 27, 28-ish, I felt like physically I could manage, but now, like, to do that, it's very demanding. I don't think I would be able to do it. It was very like draining. It was very emotionally draining as well, because as a recreational, trying to like be better, I had no understanding of variance. I had no understanding of mindset at all. I couldn't lose. I couldn't handle losing, as we established. I was a very bad loser. So the variance, and being a tournament player, the variance is just massive, and I was not prepared for that. So I remember there were times where I was like at the end of the session, like came back from work super tired, 5 hours sleep, fired up a session at like at 10 o'clock, knowing that next day I have to get up at like 9 to go to work all day. So I was very tired. And at the end of the session, like 5 o'clock, I remember there were a couple of times where I was like almost giving up. I think I was crying one time because I was running very badly at the time, I think. And I just I didn't have the framework to handle it. So I remember crying like 4 in the morning, like, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? I'm just miserable playing tournaments, not getting anywhere. So there were like some low points, but there were high points as well, like winning some tournaments. So it just balances itself out. But it would be much easier if I could handle losing and handle like my mindset as well better than I did. That was the most challenging part, the mindset.
Yeah, I think that's it, especially as an MTT player where you've got a lot of extreme variance, a lot of close calls, so to speak, on in terms of running deep but not quite getting a big cash, and just a lot of frustration as well with like things not going your way. And yeah, your emotions get dragged around with that, especially with your kind of initial skill set, initial framework of not being able to separate winning from losing and kind of those polarized kind of emotional responses from that. So in terms of obviously 2019 was kind of a time you went pro. What signified you going pro? Did you quit your job dramatically? Did you build up a bankroll? What were some of the things that contributed to you going pro, and how was that period?
I didn't really like choose to go pro. It was decided for me by my wife. Basically, what we did, we came back from UK, and I worked a day job, and I played live poker because I always loved live poker, and that was the first time, like 2019. That was the first time that I lived in a city where there was a casino, and it was kind of a close one, like a close by, so I could go there like a lot. So I would work for full time and go to casino like 4 or 5 times a week. And I did really well because it was small fields, small tournaments. It wasn't like super long, the tournaments, so the hourly was kind of like good before recreational. And I always like I said, I always thought or always dreamt of being a poker player. But at this point, I was 30 years old, roughly somewhere around that. And I thought I was too old to go pro because I always thought that if you want to go pro in poker, you have to be really young, no attachments. And I had a wife at the time. We knew we wanted to have like a family, so I thought it's just too late. Me and my wife, we are both really unhappy in our work, or like not unhappy, bored with our work, and we wanted to change that. So we wanted to move to a different city, or she came one day that she's really bored in work. I was very bored in work. I was trying to play poker as much as possible, but it's really hard to balance a full-time job and a live poker. So she asked me where we could move to, where I could like have the best opportunity to be a pro poker player. I thought there's one city near Rozvadov where we could live in, and I could travel to Rozvadov and back, and like try to be pro there. And she was like, yeah, well, okay, let's try that. So we both quit the job, moved to the city, and just took it from there. I thought I was going to be a live player, but that didn't go very well. After a couple of months, I lost like half my bankroll and went pro online because I was live player. I sucked, so I needed to learn actually how to play poker. So I went online instead of live because the variance is just insane, which I didn't know at the time as well. So again, we're back to like not being able to handle the variance and not even understanding how variance works. So I didn't really like choose it. It was presented to me as an option because I thought that option, it's not even on the table. Like I was too old. I'm not at the point of my life where it's possible. So pretty much my wife, she gets all the credit.
Yeah, I love that. Like very rare, I'd say. Often it's the opposite, where the wife would be like, right, get a real job, do something more secure, forget the poker dream, like almost like saying you're too old. But for you, like you had a very supportive wife who's actually pushed you to go, you know what, go for it, chase it. Let's move somewhere that gives you the best opportunity. So I'm really interested to know about that period specifically because it's so key. So you've now moved to a new city where there's opportunities to travel to play live poker, but now it's like pressure because your wife's giving you the kind of the green light to go for it, but now you need to figure it out. And by the sounds of it, playing live didn't live up to the expectations. So now you're like, shit, is this going to work? I need to segue. I need to figure this stuff out. So for you, like, talk us through that period where you're trying to make things work, got the pressure of your wife and obviously supporting the family on your shoulders, and live's not working. When did you realize this isn't going to work live and I need to go to online? And how much, like, how close were you to just going, you know what, I need to go back to a job because this isn't going to work?
Right. That is interesting. For some reason, I was very, very confident that it's going to work out. I remember, like, I'm not sure why I was that confident. I think that was a Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know, the more you're confident because you don't know how much you don't know. So I remember being very confident that it's just going to work out. It has to work out. So, we moved to the city where we are now in about September. And for the first 3 months, I lost half my bankroll playing in a lot of like 200, 300 tournaments, 300 euro tournaments. And at that point, it was around Christmas, I realized that this is not working out. And I'm like 2, 3 months away from like being over. We had some savings. I had some bankroll, so I figured that if I last another 3 months, that's it for me. So I had like 3 months to work on live, or I can turn online, get a coaching, play like a small stakes, and try to grind it up from there. And for that, I would have like about 7 months worth of time and bankroll. If like I wouldn't be losing or I wouldn't be running really bad. So around Christmas 22 or around the start of the year 2020, I got coaching, and I figured or I counted that I have a couple of months. I was really like, my wife was very supportive. She tried to like extend it as much as she could. So, like, we can like spend some of our savings on your poker career, so we can give you like an extra 3 or 4 months. So I'm like extremely lucky how supportive she was at the time, or she is still, of my career. And I remember I winning first tournament around March, which really like gave me the freedom to really, really go for it. Like, I was trying really hard, I was working, but I won like 15k euros which at the time was like really big for me. And I remember waking my wife up in like 4 in the morning and telling her, "Hey, I won this and this and this much money. So we are free. Like, I'm good to go for like another year, 2 years." I remember the feeling. I was so happy to tell her, and so happy. Like, the validation I got from that win, even though I was like playing online for like only 3 months, so I didn't get that better as a poker player. It was just like I run well, but the validation I got from that, and the feeling of safety that I can like there's a breathing room for me now, because as my bankroll got smaller and smaller, I knew that my opportunity to be a poker player was getting smaller with that as well. So this really like allowed me to go for it and try and have like a year and a half time to get better, and I did that. That's when I took off, and for the next, think, 2.5 years, I either ran well or played well, or like for the next 2.5 years, I didn't really have any issues that would throw me off that trajectory of success up until like last year, June, July, where shit hit the fan, and that's where I learned that I'm not that great. I might be a decent poker player, but I'm not that great with my mind and with my psyche.
Yeah, so we had that one big win, and that kind of was the catalyst moment to keep going. It's
Mm-hmm.
very often the case, obviously, for MTT players in particular. There's often this big score that you have, hopefully early in your career, so it sets you up, so you can actually, one, validate yourself that you're on the right path, but also give yourself that breathing space to actually to go for it longer term and actually build a bit of confidence and security. So it sounds like from there you had a few years of building your role, moving up stakes, getting really comfortable. But then you mentioned shit hitting the fan about a year ago. So let's dive into that period. Tell me through what was happening during that period in terms of results poker, where we are at life circumstances, and what happened that made you realize, wait a second, something's not right here.
That was 2022. At the beginning of 2022, and in the middle, I had like two of my biggest scores within a kind of short period of time. So in the first half year, I won like a lot of money, at least like considering my stakes and my skill. Like yeah, maybe not a lot of money to everyone, but like was relative to me, it was it was a lot of money. And at around June, July, I started to run badly, I think. And for the first month or two, that was fine. But at about, I think, August or September, oh yeah, right, September, because there was a W Cup, I think, which I also like run not that well. And at that point, I lost a bunch of my confidence. I wasn't confident in myself or in my like strategy. So I started to change things that didn't need to be changed, or where the mistakes were or where the issues were. The issues were in my head because I was losing confidence because I wasn't winning money. But I mean, you can play well and still lose money in poker, especially in tournaments. So because I didn't have the framework or the awareness that what was going on in my head, where I was losing confidence in my strategy or in myself, even though I was playing still the same poker that I was playing for 2.5 years, pretty much, and that was working out. So I thought I needed to change things, but I didn't. I just needed to change like the way I approach poker, and because I lacked the framework and or the awareness to know that, I started to change things that didn't need to be changed. And what pretty much happened over the next like 6 months, I was losing more and more. I got scared of losing more and more. So every losing session became much harder to bear. And it got to the point where I was so scared of losing that it overflowed into my like real life. So I was very scared of spending any money at all, even though we had a lot of savings. This is kind of funny. I remember it when I thought about what we we're going to talk about. There was a point I remember where I was down like, I don't know, a third of my bankroll, and I was so scared that we were gonna go broke, like as a family, because we were not gonna have any money, that I would be scared to flush a toilet. I know it sounds very stupid, because in my head, like I thought, well, I'm gonna go to the toilet every hour for like 10 hours, so I'm gonna flush it at the end, because in my mind, we needed to save money, like the 2 pennies that it cost to flush a toilet. Even though at this point we were like, I had a solid bankroll, we had savings to last us for like 2 years. Even though even if I didn't win a single penny, we could be okay for 2 years. And at this point, being like this financially like safe, I was so scared that we're gonna go broke. It absolutely crippled me. The anxiety and the stress was so strong that I'm shocked that I didn't lose more than I lost. So I was just absolutely unable to handle the losing, even though we were like financially in a good shape, and considering like I think the average family, at least in this country, they don't have enough spendings for the next month. For I think like 60% of the families don't have enough money for the next month, and we were okay for like a year and a half or two. I should have been like really relaxed, knowing that there's a safety net, and knowing that I can drop the stakes, I can like work more, I can do so many things. But in my mind, I created scenarios where we just go broke. Like every single day, every single minute, I was thinking about, oh, we're gonna go broke, we're gonna go broke, we're gonna end up on the street, we're not gonna have any money. Like really negative, crippling, anxiety-filled nightmares. For like whatever reason, that's what I remember. That was the absolutely lowest point of lows, where I was just scared of flushing toilets, and that just overflown into my day-to-day life. So I was spending at this time, we had one kid and another kid on the way, so I think that contributed to that as well, because that's another responsibility I have. And I just couldn't like be in the moment. I couldn't live in the moment. I was always thinking, always like creating imaginary scenarios where we go broke. Like, I'm gonna run this bad forever and we're gonna go broke. It was never like, oh, maybe this gonna turn around, and it's gonna be better. Maybe I don't know, I'm gonna win Sunday Million. Maybe that. No, it was always very negative, very specific. Like I was seeing images how we are broke, how my kid asked me for a toy, and I have to tell him, no, sorry, buddy, we can't afford it. Like just really vivid images for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that's what happened. And that was absolutely the lowest point. That's when I realized that I needed help, or that's the first time I thought I needed help. I reached out to you, I think, a couple of months later. I'm not sure what I was waiting for. Maybe I'm not sure what I was waiting for, but I was very, very unhappy and very, very in the dark place.
Yeah, wow. And it's one of those things where, like, looking back, it's obviously scary to look at and go, wow, I went to a really dark place. And also, we can see how powerful the mind is relative to our situation. So, for you, if you zoomed out, or someone outside of your situation could look at you and go, look, you're fine. You've got 2 years of living, so there's nothing to worry about. But your mind's going crazy, catastrophizing, worrying, anxious. And when you're stuck in this mode, sometimes it's hard to think of a way out. I know for you, you mentioned, I think it was in your application for the program, I think you said, I feel like a lost cause going in that right now. And that's, you get that point where you're like, I just don't know where to turn. So yeah, at this point, I'm interested to know, obviously you reached out to me for the Polarized program and to find out more about it. What was it that made you feel like you could still get help? And what was it, yeah, what were you still thinking when you reached out to me?
Um, I think I don't know how to give up. I don't like giving up. So there's no way in my mind that I'm gonna quit being a pro without like trying anything or everything that I can possibly. So I before I throw in the towel, I want to know that I tried everything I could to succeed. Like if this doesn't work out, like right now, my mindset is if this doesn't work out, at least I want to look back and say to myself, at least I tried everything. I've tried working on myself. I tried working on my mindset. It didn't work out. It's fine. That's life. It. I mean, we all run some of the Prando calculations. There's always like a couple of the cases that run really, really badly, and people don't like to talk about think about it, but somebody has to get it. Somebody has to be that guy, and I can be that guy, and I have to be okay with being that guy. I mean, I can do everything I can do everything well as I can, and I can be that guy. I can run really really poorly, I can bust, and that's okay. I have to like accept that. So that's the biggest change that I've made um, during the program, and after that, just being okay with it not working out, even though I've put in a lot of time. I'll be lying if there's no anxiety or no stress connected to that. Of course, there is. I want this to work out. I care about this job or this career, but it's not crippling anxiety in a sense. It's just like I want this to work out because I care, and because I care, I'm invested in it. So there's always a little bit of I don't want this to not work out, but at the same time, if this doesn't work out, that's fine. That's life.
Mhm. Yeah, I think for you, it's coming to that kind of realization that there's a lot of unknown variables, and I need to be okay with things not going the way I want it to. And what I really loved during this period, that even though you're at like kind of your lowest point, you hadn't given up hope. You hadn't given up hope that it's going to end, and you wanted just to put it all on the line and go, right, I'm going to try everything I can to see if I can get out of this. And at this moment, your mind was completely working against you. You didn't know how to get out of the situation. You had anxiety, you had lack of confidence, extreme high stress, and catastrophizing everything that was going on. And I remember coming to the program, the two the modules you were looking forward to the most were self-awareness and emotional regulation. So maybe can we talk about how those modules in particular were beneficial to you? Because I know acceptance was a thing we worked on a lot, especially with your kind of perfectionist tendencies. You're someone who likes to do things correctly. You like to win and obviously get validation. And we had to really instill this kind of notion of accepting, relaxing more, being a more calm person. And it didn't happen overnight, but yeah, maybe talk about how those modules in particular were beneficial to you, and how we started to unpack this kind of this inner narrative that was holding you back.
Right. I mean, the best way I can describe it is on last day's session. I played last day, and the session went poorly for a number of reasons. And the big difference between now and between before the program, between a half a year ago after the bad session, first of all, I wouldn't even finish it because I think I would quit at some point, thinking, oh, I'm not playing best. I'm getting angry. I'm not gonna finish the session because I'm not gonna play well. So right there, I would just lose EV of not by not playing. Secondly, I would like spew of money much more. I would just spew of money half a year ago. And thirdly, at the end of the session, I would be really frustrated with myself, angry with myself. And like I said before, my confidence would just drop to zero or like drop considerably, and I have to build back up again. And what happened yesterday, now that I am more self-aware, I had a bad session or like a difficult session. I didn't handle it well. After the session, I thought about it, and because now I have awareness and framework of how to work with myself. I knew that where I made mistakes. I wasn't aware of enough of my emotions, and it got a little bit to me. And I know that when emotions get to me, I tend to fight back more. I tend to call more, and I tend to not give up where I should give up. So I know what my triggers are, and I know how they manifest themselves. So all I have to do now is be aware enough to stop that in the beginning. Yesterday, I did that to some success, but I didn't do it like well enough. So now, compared to half a year ago, I can go after the session to myself. Okay, this is what happened. This is what I need to work on more tomorrow, and this is what I have to look for and be careful of. And as a result of that, my confidence gets either stays the same or gets better. So the big difference is where half a year ago I would get less confidence and very negative thoughts and being very harsh on myself. Right now I'm like accepting I've made a mistake. I'm gonna learn from it. This is what I learned today. So it's like a adaptive. It's positive. It's much more positive. Yeah, that I think that's the key difference. Even when things don't go well for me now, I can look at it and learn from it and take the good from it. Whereas before then, I was just like critiquing myself, being my own father as he was, saying to myself, "You're an idiot. You've made this mistake 1,000 times. You're just doing it over and over." So it's much easier to handle bad sessions, and they are actually good now because when I make mistakes, I learn from them. Beforehand, when I made mistakes, I didn't learn from them because I was critiquing myself and I was trying to find the mistakes where they weren't. Like when I used to spew off in a spots, I logically know that that was a spew and I shouldn't have done that. But I know that when I cool down, when I review the hands like a day later. So the issue wasn't that I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to spew off in that hand. The issue was that I had emotions that didn't allow me to think clearly. And now that I'm aware of my emotions, I know I can stop and say, wait a minute, I think I'm getting emotional here. I'm trying to fight back not because there's a logical reason to it, but because emotions guide my decision making. So I can stop now. I can fall and just move on, accept it, release it, and just reset and move on. So that's the big key difference, like the positivity, the learning from mistakes actually, and like the confidence building up from that session, as opposed to like being reset a couple of notches.
Amazing. Wow, that's so powerful. It always comes down to this kind of adaptive versus maladaptive responses. So in the past, a losing session, things would have spiraled, emotions built up. You mentioned you would have not played as long. You would have spewed off more buy-ins and you would have had a lot of frustration and negativity from that session. You wouldn't have learned from your mistakes. It would have sent you down. So not long ago, we had this full maladaptive response, which means everything's going negative. It's spiraling down and your confidence is getting less and less, like from every session you play. That's bad results. On the flip side now, same results coming back at you, same losing, same things going badly, same emotions come up to some degree, like they try to stem up in the same kind of way, but now you've got like a toolkit to one, spot the things that are happening, spot the triggers and emotions that are happening for you, and turn that into an adaptive response. And I remember for you, one of the sessions I look forward to the most is going over all your individual triggers. In emotional awareness, we look at the things that trigger you the most. And very often, one of the triggers that comes up quite frequently is making mistakes. And I know for you, I think Amir as well was another one. Making mistakes was your big trigger. And that was a hard one for you, because I know you have struggled, and you were feeling like when you made a mistake, you were very hard on yourself. Like you mentioned before, you kind of got that from your father, and things would spiral. Emotions would come up, and all of a sudden you would lose yourself because you wouldn't allow yourself to make mistakes. So we had to do a lot of deep diving into how do we counter this trigger of you making mistakes, because the mind started to go, well, to counter this, I need to not make mistakes. Let's just play better poker. And you think you need to be this perfect player, but now he's created this impossible standard, which actually makes it even worse when you do make mistakes. So let's have a little look at that one in terms of making mistakes for you as a big catalyst. Talk me through like how hard it was for you to unravel that, because I think for you, like it was getting very intense very quickly. You were getting angry at yourself, that kind of inner dialogue, which we talked about, it was very self-critical, self-blame, I think was one of your inner dialogues. So tell me through how you were able to find some early wins in that process of turning making mistakes into a learning process rather than a confidence lowering moment.
I mean, I have to say that it's still a work in progress. By no means I'm done. Like yesterday, what happened that I was doing stuff that I don't usually do. Like I was doing creative plays and it didn't work out, and I got angry with myself. Like, why am I doing this? Why don't I do what I usually do? This wouldn't have happened. So it still manifests itself, but in different ways now. Like it used to be that even when I don't know what to do or when I made mistakes, I would get really angry with myself. Now that I understand that mistakes are actually good, they help me grow, that I am more willing to try out things and be okay if it doesn't work out. But I still need to work on that, because I noticed yesterday that I was trying things and didn't work out, and I was like harsh on myself. Why did I try this? So there's still work to do. But the main difference, or like the key turning point for me, was that to realize that poker is such a complicated game that it's impossible to know what to do in every scenario, especially in tournaments where there's a lot of variables, like such as stack sizes and ICM considerations, player profiles. Like you have to change your strategy dramatically based on your surroundings. So there's a lot of variability, and it's pretty much impossible to know what to do in every scenario. And what really changed or turned the corner for me was to firstly reframe how I view mistakes. I used to view mistakes as they are very bad. I should always avoid making mistakes, but that's not helpful at all. So I have to reframe it to mistakes are actually good as long as I learn from them. So that helped me turn the corner. And secondly, I realized that even like solvers, if you give them like the parameters to work out the hand, even solvers take like a lot of time to solve a spot, like one single spot to solve it perfectly. With all the computing power the solver has at its disposal, it takes a lot of time. Then how can I expect myself to play perfectly as a solver in the real time while playing like 10 tables? So it just doesn't make sense. If I let solver play 10 tables at the same time, like in the real time, there's not enough computing power to like do that. So how can I expect myself to play perfectly when even solver takes a lot of time to solve the spots? Like all I can do is do my best, play my best, and learn from my mistakes. So that really helped me, like reframing the mistakes and realizing that it's impossible to play perfectly. That really helped me to turn the corner on the mistakes and be less frustrated with myself when I do make mistakes.
Yeah, I love that. I think reframing is such a powerful tool to realize often, as we talk about a lot in the program, the emotional response comes downstream of the meaning that you give events. So if you label the event as I'm an idiot, why did I make that mistake? You have unrealistic standards that you're going to play perfect poker. When you make a mistake, that's going to trigger this response because you've set the kind of meanings I need to play perfect in order to win. If you realize, okay, I'm going to make mistakes, so permission to make mistakes. Accept that when you play, you're going to try your best, but you're a human who is going to have some errors creeping in and you can't play perfectly. And then also when you make a mistake, awesome, this is actually an opportunity to learn. What can I learn from this mistake that just happened? All of a sudden you create 3 or 4 different kind of positive angles from that mistake that were negative. All of a sudden the mistake happens, you still feel a bit of emotion, you still feel a little bit frustrated because we're human, we don't like making mistakes in general. But now very quickly the mind can reframe that. In the past you would have catastrophized, beat yourself up, got frustrated, and things would have went kind of spiraling from there. So in in terms of how this affects you day to day, obviously you mentioned before, like kind of how a session went, which was a great example. What are some of the things that have been like kind of different for you since you went for the program? What are some of the things you've noticed in terms of playing poker and yeah, maybe your results as a byproduct?
Well, results, I didn't like at the height of my graph or at my winnings. I'm still not there. Like I'm still technically in the downswing because I didn't like get back, but I don't care. Like all I can't control results. That's the like first main development or like a improvement that I've made. I don't care about results anymore because all I can care about is what I can control. And what I can control is my input, like my discipline, my work, the volume I put in, the study I put in, and the effort I put in. Everything else is out of my control. So I don't care like when I get back what I lost, like get back what I lost. So I don't care if I'm in a downswing or not. Or all I care about is performing well and just be okay. And away from tables, what really changed for me is the ability to be in the moment. Like we talked about in a program that like most of our suffering comes from viewing things that are or like the things that are not to our the way we want them to be. So acceptance is absolutely key. That's what I learned, and that's what I practice away from poker and at poker. Like I try to live as much as I can in the moment. I try not to worry about what will be because there's no logical reason to do that. I think Mark Twain said that he had many worries in his life, but most of them never happened, and that rang true for me like so much because I always worried about what's gonna be, and most of those things never happen. And because I had tendencies to catastrophize, the things I worried about were like really dramatic shit that pretty much never happened. So I would just like I would get I had talked about I would go to very dark places unnecessarily. So what I changed was live in the moment, focus on what I do now, and not try to like solve issues that are not there anymore at the moment, and focus on what I can control, which is my effort and my input, my effort.
Yeah, so if we link all those together and like kind of a way of thinking about life, if we look at you going into the programming for a long time, you were struggling with this kind of worrying, catastrophizing, and almost like things that hadn't happened. You're creating all these scenarios that are generally negative and worrying about those. Now, if you live in the moment, get back into being present to your current environment, not thinking, getting out of your kind of forward thinking of worrying, learn to live in the moment, which is a hard skill set. The skill of presence is what we work on for that. All of a sudden you're solving all those problems, like Mark Twain said, the ones that don't exist yet, and you're just creating your mind and back to the moment. Every time you're in the moment, you're not worried about the future. That's solving those problems. Then you mentioned, obviously, for you, things not going your way. So let's say losing, and that generally creating lots of negative emotions. Learn to accept that. Learn to accept things not going your way. Learn to accept the emotions that come up as a byproduct of that, and then focusing in that moment. Once you accept it, what can I control? What can I control? What don't I control? So I think if we pair those things together, we're solving all the problems, because one, the mind's worried about things that haven't happened. It's worried about things that just happened. So we've got kind of skills to accept what just happened, stop worrying about what's going to happen in the future, and just what can we focus on back in the moment. When you pair them all together as a framework of thinking, all of a sudden you're back in control. I think for you, one of the nicest things to watch of your progression has been you feeling more in control, feeling more confident, feeling like, you know what, I've got this. And I think that's one of the most powerful skills, because I think sometimes in life just gets too hard for us. We almost just feel like, I just don't know what I'm doing. And the mind's just going so crazy, and we're catastrophizing and we're worrying, where we can't get ourselves to get in the direction that we want to be. And we don't feel like we're armed with the tools to deal with life. And that's a very scary place. And it can lead us some dark paths because we don't feel armed with the tools to fight back. Now I feel like you're in a position where no matter what happens, I almost set you up. I said, how your results been since the program? And even though they haven't been like your pick point yet, for you, the way you framed that was really nice, because you went, I don't really care about the results right now. I'm doing great. Like my performance is good. I'm showing up the right way. I'm doing everything I can that I control. I accept things will not go my way sometimes, especially with MDTs, things with variance can be crazy, and you're in a good place. I think that's the ultimate skill, to be in a good place mentally, on the right track, despite results maybe not going your way in the short term. So yeah, really well done to develop those skills. Has there been any surprising skills or anything about the program that was that you didn't expect going in, that was actually very beneficial. Because I know for you, you were very, very clear that emotions we wanted to work on, very, very clear we wanted to work on self-awareness, and the inner narratives. We did a lot of time on your kind of inner dialogues and belief systems. Was there anything that you weren't expecting coming to the program that was actually beneficial for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I mentioned it during a program or like a couple of weeks in, that I was so surprised how much the stuff I learned in the program overlap with real life. Like the key skill that I needed to learn was acceptance, and because of that, I got so much happier away from tables. Like I was able to enjoy myself without the crippling negative thoughts and anxiety. And I was really shocked how acceptance and being in the moment and being present and being self-aware is useful in a day-to-day life. And that really, like, I think I said at some point, I think like 2 or 3 weeks in, I think I wrote to you or to my blog that even if I don't win a single dollar in a poker anymore, this was the best money I've ever spent, because I got so much happier and so much relaxed and chill in the day-to-day life, that it was already worth it. So even if I don't make any more money, my approach to life changed and got better dramatically. So it was already worth it. Now to think of that, I can actually make like money by poker from using the tools you gave me. That's just like a topping on or like icing on the cake. The baseline or the most important thing for me to was to get better emotionally and mentally, to the point where I'm actually happy. I was very unhappy, and the funny thing is, when I was running bad and when I was in a dark place, I remember telling my friends, "Well, I'm running bad, but I'm handling it well." Like I had no idea how bad I was, and I had no idea how good I can feel even though when I'm losing. Like I thought that when I'm running bad, I'm supposed to feel shitty, or I'm supposed to be supposed to be unhappy, because that's just the way life is. You run good, you run bad, and you feel accordingly. But I had no idea that I can run bad and still feel okay. So that was the biggest change actually for me, to realize that life can throw you shit and you can still feel well.
Yes.
You can just accept it.
Yes, exactly that. That's it, isn't it? You can smile when things aren't going your way. Obviously, there's challenges. Obviously, we're not robots and things come up emotionally, but there's this different feeling from like kind of things that you're going your way and you being okay with that. And when I think of acceptance, when sometimes people like ask me, like, Adam, what do you mean when you say acceptance? For me, acceptance means you don't need to fix anything. All right, the moment it just happens, and whatever's just happened, you're okay with it. And you don't need to fix it. By fix it, I mean you don't need to try and problem solve what's just happened and catastrophize it or break it down. You can just accept, okay, I've lost. My bank account is now $3,000 less than it was when I started my session. I don't need to fix that bank account. I don't need to rush and try to make that money back or try and find a way to get something going. I accept it. That's happened. This is where we are right now in this moment of time. Okay, I can breathe. I accept it. And then from there, you can take a next action. Okay, should I study and learn some stuff? Should I do something? I've accepted what's just happened and I can go. I think often if we don't learn that skill, we just fight. We're constantly trying to fix stuff. We're constantly going, I need to do this, I need to do that. And we feel like we're constantly running on a treadmill, trying to go faster and go, right, what do I need to do to fix the problem? So yeah, I think for you, I think when acceptance really clicked for you, you're like, this is it. And I think probably the first 3 weeks, we really hammered home acceptance. I think I was saying that every week, every call. I think because you were sharing your problems, and I was like, morning, again, it's acceptance. And it takes a while, but once you actually do get it, you're like, actually, this is it. And I think myself, like I took a while as well myself when I was working on my own development to understand what acceptance meant, because I came from a background of solve your problems with hard work and effort. And if things aren't going well, try harder, do more. And acceptance kind of goes against that a little bit. When you understand what acceptance means, it actually doesn't. It just means being okay in your body and in your physiology and then taking action. But once you actually learn to embody that, you're like, wait a second, all my problems are generally solved better when I accept first and then move forward. So yeah, I think for you, that's been a real big one. And I'm super glad that's been able to affect all areas of your life. I think that's the main thing as well. Like obviously the Poker Athlete program is about improving your poker performance overall, but these skills are very universal to you being a better version of yourself so you can perform better at everything you do. That means you're a better husband, a better partner, a better father, a better at your sports that you do recreationally, because you're there, you're in the moment, you're able to tap into yourself and be present and perform at your best. So really good. So in terms of the skills that you enjoyed the most, which are some of the ones that you felt were most enjoyable to learn or had the most benefits, maybe outside of the emotional stuff? Any other skills that you found very useful for yourself?
Mm, I think apart from the acceptance and living the moment, I think energy mastery, that's one that could be like taught to every, like a general public. Because now that I have two small kids, like energy is scarce, so I need to really be careful with how I spend my energy. And that really, I always thought that I was good with this. Like I ate reasonably well, I slept reasonably well, I exercised, but I had no idea how much it like how well it can be done. So that's the one that really surprised me. I thought that's the one where I'm good at, so I don't need to work on that all that much. But that's the one that surprised me how much better I can do with not
Optimization.
energy optimization. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So that's the one that surprised me. Apart from that, yeah, one more thing that really like clicked for me as well. It was resilience, where I used to view things that like shit that happened, bad stuff that happened to me in life or in poker. I viewed it as like bad. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want to be in the downswing. I didn't want to lose this. I didn't want like anything bad that happened. And what I realized that that's not the way to go, or like what you made me realize that's not the way to go. If you want to grow and if you want to learn, the more shit you take, the better. So I needed to reframe how I view things, like the bad stuff that happens. So where I used to like be resentful to bad stuff happening to me, now I welcome it. Like when I'm in bed, when I'm running bad, like yesterday, I was not doing all that well, and I wasn't running all that well. So I was keep saying to myself, all right, this is the point where I build resilience. This is the point where I like develop as a poker player. This is not the point where I like run really well and win every tournament and win a lot of money. Today is the day where I like build up my resilience. Sorry, keep messing it up. So yeah, I had to reframe and rethink how I think about things. I mean, I was in a really bad place before the program. There was like all the skills that you learn. I had like gains in the post course, like the questionnaire. I made like massive improvements because I was in a really bad place. I can imagine that some of the guys who were in a better place, they had the gains like 10% better, 20% better there. What I did was like 70%, 100%, 150% at, I think, presence or self-awareness. I'm not sure which one. So because I was in such a bad place, I made like insane gains. But the resilience and reframing how I view things was like a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful skill, because as you go through life, things are going to go against you. Things aren't going to go your way, and how you frame that kind of event is everything. So if you look at like resilient people in life in general, whether it's in sports, whether it's Navy SEALs, whether it's people you look up to who can deal with adversity, a resilient person, in my opinion, is someone who can deal with adversity and return back to the kind of emotional, physical baseline quickly, which means they can tolerate a lot of stress, they can tolerate a lot of things not going their way and still show up and be in a good kind of state. And all people who've got that skill of resilience are able to put themselves in tough situations. They've had to deal with adversity. You don't get resilient by sitting on your sofa, scrolling Netflix. When things go badly, that is the moment to train resilience. However, most people don't frame that as training resilience. Most frame it as like, this sucks. When's this going to end? In reality, it's almost like, suck it in. It's like, all right, awesome. The harder it gets, the more I'm building my resilience. On the other side of this, I'm going to be a really, really tough person. So yeah, I think tapping into that more and more and realizing that life's going to throw you lots of opportunities to train this. It's one of the things I love the most in the poker athlete community is when someone's going for a downswing. I know this sounds a bit bad, but when someone's going for a downswing and then they say something like, perfect time to train resilience. Because that is it. Like when things are going good, awesome. Optimize your win rates, double down on focus, double down on energy optimization, be present when you're playing and enjoy the ride and make as much money as possible. When things are going bad, you're on a big downswing, awesome. Work on your emotional regulation, work on your resilience. These skills need crafted, and they're only getting crafted when things aren't going your way. So yeah, I think once you can get that, you can frame it, you're in the moment of going through tough times, you have got a really superpower. And you mentioned as well energy optimization, which I think is such a underrated skill, because energy is the currency of life. In terms of anything you want to do in life, goal orientated, requires energy to pursue that. So poker is one of those, you've got to put hours in, you've got to put studying in. The more energy you wake up with, life becomes easy. I'm sure every single person listening to this can relate to some days you wake up and your energy is really high. How much motivation do you need to do your study session, do your grinding, go to the gym, do stuff? When you've got energy, you can express that and use it the way you want it to. On the flip side, let's say you wake up, you haven't slept well, you just feel low on energy, and you've got a real busy day. Now you're like, can I skip the gym? Can I skip this? Like it's so hard. So realizing that your energy can be optimized, and there's lots of tools you can use. So not every day, but the majority of days, you should wake up 8 or 9 out of 10 for energy. Obviously, you've got a newborn child, which screwed that all together. But if you haven't got a baby and you're allowed to control your own sleeping schedule for the most part, you should be able to wake up with a very high energy most days, which correlates with high output in everything you do. So yeah, I've just got your results from the pre-module and post-module assessment. So basically every time someone goes to the program, they take a assessment before they start their skills, and they take an assessment at the end once they've went through the skill training to see how much they've improved. So for Martin, you took yours, and basically you had a lot of struggling ones. So actually your lowest scores here were, it looks like skill 5 perspective, that was like a 15, 16. So perspective's ability to see zoom a picture and see a clear perspective, a clear reality. So this means that when things are going badly, you see bad results. It's just bad results, nothing more, nothing less. And you don't catastrophize. So obviously, the way we spoke today, we can tell that you were over emphasizing stuff. You were getting sucked into downswings, into results that was struggling. You definitely had really, really bad scores for self-awareness, for presence, and for stress mastery. So all these are like super low, like in the kind of early beginner phase. So for you now, you've improved all of these crazy amounts, and your total improvement of all the skills is 500%, which is crazy. So your scores are now all elite apart from presence, which is still in the intermediates, but I've still seen big improvements. But yeah, for you, you've really knuckled down, you've really worked on these skills. As you mentioned, you were not in a good place going to the program, but that almost makes it harder, because when you're not in a good place, it's sometimes hard to put the work in and still believe that this is going to work and you're going to come out the other side in a good place. So yeah, for you, I applaud you for, first of all, taking the risk to come into the program when you are in a real dark, low place, and then the work you put in during the program to actually come to the side, and now you've got the skills and hopefully the tools going forward that you don't end up in that dark place again. And if you do, obviously life can turn very directions. You've now armed yourself with a kind of toolkit that you know what to do in those moments. You know how to turn into acceptance. You know how to reframe stuff. You know how to take a more long-term perspective. So no matter what life throws at you, you're ready for it. And if it gets tough, guess what? Let's train resilience. Let's train those other skills that help us to deal with adversity. So yeah, really proud of you for the work you've put in during the program and where you're at right now. So going forward, what are you most excited for? What are you most looking forward to? Now you've obviously come out of a tough patch in terms of emotionally and results-wise. For the future, what are some of the things you're looking forward to? What can we expect for you going forward?
That's a good question. I actually didn't think about it. Like, having 2 small kids, I live a very day-to-day life and try to take things day to day. What I'm looking for is just enjoying myself and being happy. I wasn't happy for a very long time, so I enjoy every day now that I'm actually okay and I'm actually happy. And since I don't really care what's gonna happen, like what the poker athlete taught me, or what it gave me tools to handle anything that happens. So no matter what shit I get thrown at me, I know that I have the toolkit, and I know I have the awareness of that I can handle it. And I don't really like look forward to anything in particular. I look forward to like getting back in a green. That would be nice, but it's not like I'm clinging to it or I'm like desperately trying to get it. I'm just enjoying myself, doing the best I can, like doing the best I'm possibly like capable of, and being okay with whatever happens. So I'm just like very in the moment. That's actually a good question. I don't really look for anything.
Well, how good is that though?
I have nothing.
Yeah, but how good is that, right? That's the ultimate. Sometimes I get a little bit goal oriented, so I'm very driven towards pursuing stuff, which has a lot of benefits and it allows you to achieve a lot of stuff. But sometimes actually the best kind of way to experience life and to be the happiest is just to be in the moment, like to literally not be on the pursuit of anything other than enjoyment of this moment. Obviously, having children brings you more into line with that, because every moment is like, okay, what's the child doing, what they need? So you're into this kind of day-to-day living. So I think for yourself, maybe going into like a more present day-to-day living is actually the very thing you need to do right now, and to kind of balance that overthinking, over worrying, and being in the future. Now being present and enjoying that process. So yeah, really, really good. I think for you, yeah, being happy, it's one of those things as poker players, we sometimes don't give ourselves permission to be happy until X. We just need to achieve this. Just need to get this win rate. Just need to get this graph back in the green. Just need this 100K a month so I can buy the house, and then I'll be happy. And it's like we trick ourselves into realizing, enjoy the journey. Be happy during it. I think for you, being present, accepting what happens, and yeah, really, 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 really powerful to hear the skills that you've learned. What I really love is like, these are all tools that anyone can learn. This is what, obviously, I'm very biased because I believe this so strongly, but I feel like anyone who applies himself and realizes these are skills, I can develop them from my current level to a high level. You know, if you put the right time in, you understand yourself, you build self-awareness, understand emotional triggers, and those kind of hard skills, all the other skills in particular are very easy to train from that framework, and you can develop them quickly. And like for you, it's like 8 weeks or even 3 weeks, you said you notice big changes. It doesn't take like a lifetime of work, although it might take a lifetime of work to fully master them. It takes, yeah, just effort, intentionality. So for you, you've really put the effort in. So yeah, I applaud you for that. And yeah, you've been a great student. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. Anything else you'd like to share in terms of anyone listening who you might want to share any parting words with for advice going forward?
I would just say to everyone or anyone that can be struggling at the moment and being in the dark place like I was, like I thought I was pretty much, I was very close to thinking that this is it and life is just like this shitty and this is how I'm gonna feel forever. So there's hope. Just reach out, work on yourself. It can turn around, and there's the baseline that you can get to which you can get in poker, even though when you're losing, like the baseline of happiness is much higher than you think. Like I used to think that when I'm running bad, I'm supposed to feel shitty. That's the way it is. But actually, no, the baseline of happiness is much higher than that I used to think. And I think that could be true to most people, or like to more people. So if you like you are in the dark place and you think that's the way it is and there's no way around it, there is actually, you can be losing money and still be happy, and you can like run badly and you can still be happy. You can like have shit thrown at you and still be okay. So just work on it and reach out for help. It's not how it's supposed to be. Like you're not supposed to feel shitty, and you're not supposed to be unhappy. And it took me like 8 months or like 6 to 8 months to suffer, to realize. So save yourself 6 to 8 months of suffering and just work on it.
Love that. Wow, such good advice. And yeah, your baseline of happiness is higher than you think. It takes work to unlock that, but if you're intentional and you put the work in, you can get there. You can get to a happier place, and it's one of those, no matter what you want to achieve externally in life, we all just want to be happy on some level. It's like when we start the conversation talking about having validation from your father and want to be loved and accepted. We always want to be happy. That's all we want. We want this kind of happy feelings that we can pursue what we want in life, but we're happy on that pursuit. So really happy you're getting to that place. You might not be there 100% of the time. Like it's obviously an ongoing process, but for you, compared to where you were 8 months ago, you're a different person. And yeah, really, really good to see you going forward. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. I'll be seeing you very soon on the group coaching sessions. And yeah, thanks again for your time.
Thank you for having me.